You've carried the weight of a story unspoken, a pattern repeating, a cycle unbroken. The past keeps narrating your present with fear, like you're destined to stay where you've been year to year. But you're not a lost cause and you're not too late. You're a main character paused at a pivotal gate. This isn't the end, it's the setup for more. The moment you choose to walk through the next door. Not to forget where you've been, but to frame it anew, to see it as part of what's growing in you. When you center your chart and name your desire, your money story catches fire. So if you're ready to shift and stop playing small, it starts with deciding this plot twist is your call. Let's get into it. There's a reason that you haven't been able to think or logic your way into a new money reality. A reason why simply trying to adopt a new system or affirm money mindset mantras has not actually worked. So, whether it's some fancy new tool or spreadsheet, whether it's the hottest new mindset reframe, or whether it's trying to shame yourself into doing better, none of that is going to land when the story underneath your efforts, underneath those thoughts and that inner dialogue stays the same. That's because the story that you carry is the part that you can see and understand of the unconscious currents underneath below the surface that are actually running the show. If that story, which is an indication of those underlying beliefs that frame or limit what is actually possible for you or open and expand what's possible for you, if that story says that you're just bad with money, or you're behind, or you're somehow inherently flawed or doomed to repeat the same cycles that are keeping you stuck or stagnant, not making the money that you need to, not experiencing the growth that you would like to, no amount of mind setting or budgeting is actually going to set you free from that trap, because the trap is being held in place by those underlying beliefs, as evidenced by the story that you're telling yourself and so living and enacting when it comes to your money. That's why I want to talk about this in today's episode. I want to go deeper into those unconscious realms and actually present to you a really fun way to tap into them so that it doesn't have to feel deep and heavy, or rather, it doesn't have to feel heavy just because we're going deeper. That is through the power of story. That is why we are so much closer to these things when we're kids and we're living those archetypal unfoldings of these primal story arcs that are available and inviting us into. Some of the things that we are going to explore today are how naming your main character energy, which is something that you can access through the reflection of your astrology chart, can be used to recast yourself in a money narrative that intentionally shifts you in the direction that you want to go. And how much more powerful this can be than other methods that you've tried. How much more powerful and simple this can be. Some of the things that we're going to get into. The real reason bad with money might not be your story and what actually is. The pattern most soul led entrepreneurs don't realize they're stuck in until it repeats itself. How your birth chart holds the role you were born to play in your money life, that main character energy. The surprising way story speaks to your subconscious and why that matters so much for change. What your sun sign reveals about how to lead yourself out of the old money loops you're trapped in, and why rewriting the narrative isn't actually enough, and the one thing that actually proves to yourself you've changed and how powerful that is. So, first, let's talk about why being bad with money and whatever form that story umbrella might take for you is usually misdiagnosed. So, while it may be very live and well in terms of pulling the strings behind the scenes for you, it's not truth. And I want to shine a flashlight on it and talk about it for what it really is so that you can help to separate yourself from identifying it, get enough distance from it to be able to rewrite the kind of relationship you want to have with money so that you can live out this story arc with a climax and a turning point to get where you want to go. The thing about the stories that once we've actually take a look, find running the show within us is that we didn't decide to put them there. Most of the time, more often than not, they came from our parents' examples of how they were with money, past struggles that we may have had with money that aren't really here anymore, but left such a permanent mark on us that they are a part of what we are now reenacting to keep them in place. And just some way, shape, or form, they're not something that you consciously chose and decided. So, part of the seeing this as a story with a beginning, middle, and aimed end is that you are positioned at the middle right now, the present moment of seeing behind you where you came from, why you were left with what you were, what you are now holding in terms of beliefs around money, being able to identify that so that you can intentionally and consciously choose the direction that you want to go forward. We're going to talk more about how to actually harness the power of story to touch your unconscious and reach the places that you need to with this. But the important part is to first understand that whatever is there for you is not yours, essentially. It was left there by someone else's example or influence or some past experience that also is not you. So it's not a damning thing, whatever it was. There's a very real breadcrumb trail of how it got there. And often being able to identify and connect that dot can be really helpful to release the grip that it has on us in terms of assuming that it is part of your identity and there to stay. Also, oftentimes it's there in terms of the experiences that you have had or the examples that you've seen in other people that help to shape those beliefs within you. Oftentimes, it just came from being unsupported. What we have a tendency to do, however, is to file them away as if we are somehow incapable, instead of the much more likely truth that we've been unsupported or under resourced in that area. It's not actually saying anything about us, about me, about you, and our capacity of how to be with money. That really helps to dislodge it and create the space and the opening that you are actually really capable. And I'm here to help you show that to yourself so that you can actually trust yourself and know how capable you are. So, whatever it is, it came from the past, however, it made its way into you, got its hooks into you. But the label, the story, the beliefs that you've been left with that you're carrying right now that aren't serving or supporting you to have the relationship with money that you want is not truth. It's some kind of inherited title that is part of your past story, the past chapter that got you here. So it holds a very important place in the story, but it is not a death sentence and it is not your identity. Now, let's talk about the common loop that many entrepreneurs find themselves in, the unconscious, unfortunate loop, before they actually get the courage to lean in, look closely, and take the time to do what they need to do to actually shift things and make the change. Often, that pattern looks like some kind of freeze or avoidance. And then you notice it inconsistently, but when you do, you overreact, you hustle harder, and then you repeat the cycle. So you kind of go back and forth between some kind of avoidance. Then when you look, there's some kind of anxiety, discomfort, reactionary kind of behavior, over hustling, and then you let it go, you forget, you look away. This common loop happens especially for soul-led entrepreneurs because you haven't made the connection between the money side of your business and the magic. You see it as very separate from the other parts of your business that feel so aligned and inspiring and on purpose for you. And then there's money, this thing that I just have to do, the money management, in order to be in compliance, in order to make it financially viable and sustainable. But you don't actually equate that with the magic, the fun, the inspiration. So it's common to get in this loop because you haven't found a place for it where you can actually integrate it in a sustainable way to want to show up for consistently. So you have this kind of lean in, lean out looping pattern. Again, this often comes from old scripts, not just the surface level habits themselves. What we're pointing to here is that there's some kind of deeply rooted story or past influence and so belief system that you hold that keeps you stuck in that old script or narrative or loop. So then it shows up as these seeming habits. And part of that avoidance is not wanting to keep top of mind where these things actually come from. In order to be able to break these loops, the reason I'm talking about this today is that the story has to shift to open up a new space, a new territory to inhabit where that pattern can stop playing out, where you can interrupt it and find a new way forward and settle into that new way as a new normal. As usual in my world, you know we have a cosmic code to turn to for this. When it comes to the stories that you are enacting in your life, your sun sign, which I like to call your story code, is that main character energy that makes the story possible. Your sun, like the gravitational center of the solar system, is the cohesive central narrative or storyline that all of the other story arcs play a supporting role to. Again, supporting roles, main character role. You need to be rooted and sitting at the seat, at the center of yourself, of that main character energy to be able to be in the empowered position to steer the course or direct the whole system differently. This is how we look to see your natural leadership style and also your source of energy and motivation, which is an important piece as well for you to be coming from that natural source of your light, your fire, your motivation, your energy to want to embrace this story too, your money story, not just these other more potentially compelling growth stories happening for you that are in support of your cash flow is the vital lifeline of your business and your life. So you want to position yourself as the central character in that story at the center of that then supports everything else. Just like the sun in the sky is our source of life force energy in this realm, so too is your sun the source of your life force energy and motivation. As always, remembering here that ultimately you are not trying to fit yourself into someone else's system, even the financial system of this world. Ultimately, you want to position yourself, center yourself at that core center so that you're being yourself, so that showing up, even for the money side of things, is a coming home to yourself. That's why story is so important. When we're talking about wherever you are on your relationship to money timeline, we want to see this from the bird's eye view, bigger picture of the full story, because that's where you have the power to shift and change it. Because inherent in the story is that you are both, or I should say all three, are happening simultaneously. You are rooting into the present moment, the present position that you currently are in the story, the now. You are just as much owning and connecting with the past that got you here, the once upon a time lead up that is the setup for the climax that makes the story so interesting to tell when your future self is telling how you got where you want to be now. Then, of course, that future place that you are calling towards you as part of where the story is going to turn, the chapter is going to turn and take you. Of course, I can talk all about it, but the fact is there is something quite mysterious about how story works so well to touch our subconscious and how that subconscious space is so powerful in what is possible for anything in our lives in terms of our inner world, our outer circumstances, our personal lives, our businesses. Everything is coming up and out of that invisible foundation of our subconscious. Story has the power to speak directly to that part of ourselves that otherwise is difficult to access. Where changes there are where real change starts, where change in other areas of our life become possible and actually become the path of least resistance to lean into. That's why one of the things that I am so excited to be implementing into the next version of Cosmic Currency, where we do exactly this, we help you to rewrite and reshape and shift the direction of your money story, both by aligning you with the parts of yourself reflected in your chart that need to be considered for it to feel authentic to you, for you to show up for the money side of your business, not like you're just trying to conform into something that was already laid out for you that wasn't designed with you in mind, along with the practical side of actually putting practices in place to tend your money intentionally and rhythmically in your own way. We actually kick off this experience now with, I create for you, thanks to AI, something I'm calling your finance fable. Using your astrology charts, positioning you as the main character of your story, considering your moon and some other pieces to put it together in exactly the right way to hit you and touch you in all of the right places to get into your subconscious that knows you and your potential better than you do. We also weave in your actual real life experience, past, present, and future intention with money. So you share with me exactly what that story arc is for you. And we plug that into the power of archetype and fairy tale and fable using the codes of your astrology chart. You guys, it's incredible. The first person that I showed this to literally cried. It just touches you there in that way that only story can. It bypasses your mind that would otherwise block or resist it, your adult sensibilities. It gets right down to those primal, simple, childlike archetypes that make it so much easier for you to just settle into and receive. It literally just spells out for you in this beautiful fairy tale like way the most meaningfully, subconsciously rooted understanding of the transformation that you're about to go on. I don't know what your relationship has been up until this point with children's stories, but y'all, the finance fable is not something fluffy. It is a powerful pattern disruptor to put in place before you go on the journey of transforming your money story. It also has this effect of preparing your nervous system to welcome and trust the shift that's about to take place for you. Otherwise, the job of your nervous system is to keep you safe, is to protect you from change that is going to be disrupting. Whereas if you prime that experience, if you prime your nervous system with something that actually feels safe through the power of story, then actually walking the path of that transformation is something that your nervous system is actually going to let through. This works again because you can't change your money story by just wishing it was different, by consciously affirming a mindset that is how you want things to be with your relationship with money. However, you can change it by writing the next chapter intentionally from a rooted, safe, secure foundation of the overall story that next chapter is a continuation of. Then, of course, by actually living it, by actually showing up differently and showing yourself that you are the transformed main character of the next act. past. If you're tired of feeling like your past is damning you to repeat these patterns that keep you stuck at an earning level that is not paying the bills, is not meeting your needs, or at least is not putting you on track to be able to upgrade your lifestyle and make your way to growing the wealth that you actually want to amass and create for yourself and your family. No matter what you do, no matter what you try, no matter how badly you want it, you still end up getting stuck in that same loop. This is your moment to step into the plot twist. The first week of Cosmic Currency, where I create and deliver you your personalized finance fable, is called the Plot Pivot, where, of course, we also go into your sun code, your sun sign, and supporting pieces, your story code, so that you can firmly root yourself at the center of your chart to be able to lead and direct the change that you want to see. As again, you also enact it. I want you to know that right now we are in the final moments of first light access for this. I know AI says this, but I said it first, game-changing new version of Cosmic Currency, the 10-week experience that I will walk with you alongside you in a private container as you rewrite your story of your relationship with money through your design, your astrological design with your cosmic codes, your rhythms by actually integrating the practices that we go through into your regular workflow, and your real life in terms of the impact that it has on what you're able to not only earn, but pocket, take home, reinvest, splurge, and spend on the lifestyle that you actually want to be living. The whole experience starts out with that week one of the plot twist with the finance fable and the story code. That's just our starting point, because we don't just stop at the mind soothing insight space. We don't stop at the visionary space. We start there to set the intention, to really set the space for this transformation to be able to take root. Then the program carries you into the actual practices, piece by piece, all of the things that you need to be looking at and tuning into to tend your money flow as a self-employed person, into and eventually ending with a system of a practice that you can do that actually supports the story that you are growing into, actually grooms you to be the character on the other side of the transformation in the story. If you want to get in at First Light Access with all of the bonuses and $300 off, which it will never be this price again after it actually launches to the public, once it's available in a couple weeks, go to cosmicbee.link/currency. The link is also in the show notes. You can check out that list of bonuses and claim the version of yourself that you want to place in the second part of your story. I will get to work getting all of the pieces created for you, including the epic finance fable to use the power of story to crack open the concrete ceiling, however you visualize what has been keeping you stuck and small and not where you want to be with money, so that you can move into the clear, confident version of yourself that fully trusts your ability to be with your money, to provide for yourself, for your family, and to do so through your business alone. I'm telling you, one of the things I love so much about the sun sign story code that we start with is when you read your horoscope, most people know their sun sign, even if they don't know their full chart. You've heard of your sun sign, you've heard the horoscopes or the pop astrology interpretations of what it means to be that sun sign, but we go so much deeper into not just the sign, but the supporting pieces of what makes that code uniquely yours, exactly how it shows up in you and animates you. We unlock that as the foundation of this process and experience, because that's where your leadership lies. Your sun code, you need to be moving from your own center. You have your own way of moving You have your own way of unlocking your infinite power source. If you are not coming from the central seat of that sun code, that story code that unlocks your ability to sit at the throne at the center of it as the main character, then you're acting essentially. You're fitting yourself into somebody else's main character energy. You're an actor. You're basically forcing yourself into something that was never designed for you, that you're not going to fit into. However, when you lead with your sun code, when you set the course of that story shift rooted in that cosmic code at the center of your chart, change not only becomes possible, it becomes sustainable. Because again, your sun code is that central cohesive storyline that ties everything together, past, present, future. That part needs to be present for it to be sustainable, for the direction that you're going to continue to be. It makes me think of the difference between a big ship that just does like a 1 degree shift to change direction versus doing a full on U-turn. You don't need to keep doing that. Once you align your direction with that leading force of your sun's story code, you can trust that you're not going to have to whiplash yourself to continue to make little tweaks to refine your direction, because you're actually finally on course with who you are. I cannot emphasize enough that the story shifts, the mindset work, the energetics, the intention setting, all of that is so critically important to set the stage to make a change. But change is not actually possible. That will never be enough if you don't actually do what you need to do. The 3D changes start showing up in a different way to prove to yourself that you've changed and that you're better with money and that you can trust yourself around it. This is the piece. I have a past episode, if you haven't listened, on money mindset as gaslighting, where it will never be enough. You then have to, the intention setting, the story foundation, the mindset work, all of that sets the stage and plots the course. It sets the direction, but it's the showing up, it's the regular repeated practice, the rhythm, the reliability that actually builds the trust that you need to actually enact and root the change and make it something that lasts. That practice, which is what we end on with Cosmic Currency, the final week, is putting it all together into a regular rhythmic practice that you can show up for in your way based on the cosmic codes that we presence as part of the experience. That is what turns that new narrative, the story, into your actual lived experience, your new reality with money. It's both the inner reframe and the outer rhythm that make this change possible. We make sure every step of the way in Cosmic Currency, you guys, you'll see one of the bonuses that's in there on the First Light Access page as well is a new journal prompt treasure trove to guide that internal process of transformation, all of the inner ahas and shifts that take place throughout, that you're tracking those as you're actually showing up to do the things that you've been avoiding doing because you didn't want to do them in a way that bored you or turned you off. And now you're going to find a way that actually turns you on, aligns with your magic, and makes you feel really excited to show up for. You're going to look back on past chapters and be like, what was I ever doing avoiding these things? This is one of my most favorite stable ways that I show up for my business now and for myself. Remember, you're not too late. You're not behind. That's not how it works in a story, in a movie. Everything happens exactly in the timing that it's meant to as part of the story arc. You're just mid-plot, and that arc is still unfolding. You just need to step into that throne at the center of that main character position to start leading and directing it differently. Of course, following it up with the behavior and the actions to support the new direction that you want to go. That's why I created the Finance Fable as the most amazing way to kick off this experience to help the old story soften and release its hold, to let your sun and your story code lead. If you are ready, if you are feeling this and you're ready to change your relationship with money, as above, so below, cosmically aligned with your design, but really practically rooted in the practices that you need to be out showing up for as a business owner to be in compliance. This is coming from someone, of course, that was a tax preparer for almost a decade. I know what you need to be doing, and I know why you haven't wanted to until now. And that's why I created Cosmic Currency, so that we could create a system for you where you can do it your way and you can finally release the weight of avoidance. Oh my goodness, the energy that it takes to avoid this is so much heavier than the effort that it actually takes. Once you can bring it into your flow, into your magic, integrate it into your workflow in a way that really works for you. This is going to become an evergreen opportunity. However, all of the perks of First Light access, the extra bonuses, the $300 off, the $300 off will never be there again after this initial invitation to get in while the getting's good on this First Light access. The link is in the show notes. This is the time. This is your plot pivot, and you are right on time.